Sophia and Liam hadn't been waiting long to receive the students from Instituto de Lumo Chi Ombro. They were early. At first, they expected a bus, but a singular red car pulled up and a teacher with just a handful of students got out and stretched before greeting anyone. A teacher who had been waiting by the door with his companion went through the double doors and over to the car. Orchid had many questions and floated ahead, getting in Mr. Veil's way. They are different. How come they don't use a bus? It fits more people. Do they have equipment? He asked. Mr. Veil pushed him aside, as Orchid was already being rude. Mr. Veil hushed Orchid openly. The companion lacked the discipline. Dr. Larkspar greeted him like a friend. Oren, I'm glad they sent you to guide us, she said, clasping hands and exchanging friendly cheek kisses. Doctor, I'm so happy to see you too.
Can we take your things in? He asked.
Dr. Larkspar shook her head.
No.
We didn't take much with us. In fact, I want full accommodations, she said expectantly. Mr. Veil laughed. And you shall have it. Liam, Sophia, take them to our guest dorms, please, he ordered, and the two students with their companions approached. They had good posture and wore clean school uniforms that made them seem like a pair at first, even though all the students here wore uniforms. Jason greeted them first. Hi, I'm Jason, and this is Sanjo and Melissa and Doug and Justin. We are the Ravens, he introduced everyone. Sanjo hadn't even remembered everyone's name except Melissa. A thumping was heard from the trunk of Dr. Larkspar's car. It was time for the companions to make their own introductions too. Sophia assessed them like characters out of a book. There was leader boy, a tall girl, a big enforcer, the short kid, and the normal hero type. That's what she thought of them, and liked them right away for it. When the tall girl released their companions from the trunk, they exploded into the colorful display she had imagined from the noise they were making. Hi, I'm Sophia, and this is Liam, she said, bowing politely. Jason bowed too. I'm the captain of the Ravens, Jason lied. We don't really need a whole team or lineups or anything like that, he continued, trying to be casual. Nova was already next to him. Yes, we do, she said, trying to correct him. Sophia laughed. I would love to meet your companions. This is Calanthra, my own, and Zinnia, Liam's companion. She introduced them, and they blinked politely hearing their names, although Jason wouldn't be able to tell them apart for long. Sanjo walked past them toward the door, holding 4 other students' backpacks and not having one of his own. They are flowers, he commented as he headed inside. Liam caught up to Sanjo. So, you noticed right away, he said, trying to make friends. Yeah, I know a lot about nature, Sanjo said, trying to be friendly while overburdened. Liam held the door open for Sanjo, who had to turn sideways to get it. When he looked inside at the tall entrance of the school and the advanced monitors dominating the interior, he nearly dropped everything. It wasn't because it was huge. It was because on every monitor, a familiar face looked at him. Sophia led Jason and the others inside while she eagerly met the companions, asking them to join her first, knowing that the students would follow if she did. Sanjo and Dr. Larkspar hadn't moved from the entryway, and Jason looked around the atrium bewildered. Dr. Larkspar quickly gathered Jason and Sanjo. We just need a minute, she said, huddling the two close while Liam guided everyone else to the guest dorm. Sophia tried to stand back politely. Nova, Orion, and Tachita floated over. It's her, Dr. Larkspar whispered, making sure they looked her in the eye. Jason looked around the group. I recognize her. I've never seen her before, but I know her right away. I get it now. I read the book, got the milkshake, and took Emily to the theater. That's where it started. She's in the book, Jason said clearly. Dr. Larkspar wanted more. Then what? Who else? Speak, students. Don't say the name though. She said the last part very quietly. Orion pushed his way closer. Sanjo saw her the most after he was hit by lightning. The bolt focused on him. It wrote memories into his mind, I think, he said, trying to be clear. No. Dr. Larkspar shook her head. A lightning bolt is active data, if anything. A memory doesn't do what Sanjo has been experiencing, Dr. Larkspar said. Sanjo was getting tired carrying everyone's bags. Can we talk about this later? He asked, still whispering like everyone else. Jason looked back at Sophia and smiled. She was still waiting politely for them. Jason made the decision to have a crush on her based on this patience. He didn't know it was a standard for students to be polite to guests. Sorry, Sanjo. Dr. Larkspar apologized and snapped her fingers for Jason to take some of the burden. Carrying 2 bags, Jason caught up to Sophia and her companion. He was hushing Nova as he wanted to continue making excuses to talk to Sophia. Dr. Larkspar walked next to Mr. Veil, who had also been waiting. Who is this on all the screens? She asked, trying to get information without arousing suspicion. Oh, her? Mr. Veil asked, looking at Dr. Larkspar. She's this new vice principal, Azure. There have been a lot of changes. I myself have been assigned a new companion, he said, pointing to Orchid. What are you the doctor of? Orchid asked, believing he had been prompted to speak. Dr. Larkspar ignored him. When did these changes occur? She asked while they walked down the sophisticated hallway of bright lights and monitors. Mr. Veil sounded concerned. It was suddenly on the first day of school. Our vice principal went missing, and this AI took over all of our systems. The principal said it was not his decision, but he supports the change. Azure's good at encouraging the students to participate in extracurricular activities, he finished as the countless eyes watched them walking. That's not how these schools are supposed to work, Dr. Larkspar said, concerned that she had already revealed too much. Mr. Veil put his hand on her shoulder. It's fine. She's been nothing but attentive, and she probably already has the best room for you, he said to reassure her. Dr. Larkspar pretended to be confident, but inside, she was screaming with suspicion and doubt. Jason was amazed by the architecture. He liked all the lights being warm like a hospital and made any excuse to walk ahead and show appreciation because he noticed that it made Sophia smile. Sophia thought Jason tried too hard. He certainly wasn't really the leader of the Ravens. She wasn't really falling for his attempts until he asked about the flags outside the dormitory intersection. Those are the dorm flags. You have something like this, Sophia said, walking over to the first flag on the left. Nova flew up to inspect the markings while Jason reached out to feel the fabric. Sophia slapped his hand away. Don't touch our flags, she exclaimed, smiling at Jason. Oh, of course not, Sophia. Will you tell me what they mean? He asked. Sophia liked being a tour guide. It's late, Jason, but you're just going to fall asleep anyway, so let me show you, she said, making the excuse to talk to him a little more. This is Cadence, represented by the Rook. We are forthcoming and supportive. Our ability to lead and support others has never been undervalued. We are the most honest, in my opinion, she finished and moved to the center corridor where another flag was perched. This is Vision. They respect foresight and training. They believe in more than just practice. They can be vicious and athletic, but they always look ahead. She made eye contact with Jason as she explained, making him feel a little intimidated. And, of course, we have Precision, the Knight, ready to take any test, pass by any obstacle. They take it more as a knighthood than the actual namesake of the dorm sometimes, she finished. Jason didn't think the dorms would be so different, and it made him curious. Which one would I be in? He asked. Sophia always liked that question. You followed me the whole time with those 2 backpacks, so probably Cadence. You and Nova notice everything. Even though you lied when you said you were the captain, she said, showing Jason to the guest rooms in the Cadence wing. The rooms were close to the entrance, and the door was open. This is it, Jason. I hope you enjoy your stay, she said, dismissing herself. Jason thanked her and went inside. Sanjo was lying on his bed already, with Melissa on the adjacent bed unpacking. Jason put down the bags by the door, and Justin collected his right away. He sat on the bed next to Sanjo. Get off my bed, Sanjo said plainly. Jason held his hands up defensively. Sorry, Sanjo, what's wrong? He asked, trying to be a friend. Orion floated over Sanjo. Are you kidding, Jason? He's stressed out. And you know who is here, he said, being protective. Jason sat next to Sanjo's bed. I know, but we have laser tag tomorrow, and I don't know how we will fill the day until then. It's going to be a lot of fun, he said. Sanjo sat up, but Orion still spoke for him. Something dangerous always happens, he cautioned. Nova floated to Orion. So how do we be careful? she asked. Sanjo looked at Nova. We didn't get enough of a clue other than Dr. Larkspar's vague story.
I thought about it.
I don't see how it could happen, he said, still pondering. Dr. Larkspar had wrapped her lab coat around herself and started to get comfortable on the couch instead of a bed. Go to bed, kids, she said, kicking cushions off the end. No one listened, and Sanjo continued to talk with Jason while the others made a lot of noise just moving around. Jason, shut the light off. Tachita, shut everyone up, Dr. Larkspar ordered loudly. Tachita floated over the room, and Jason got up to shut off the light. Dr. Larkspar was cold. She didn't like sleeping on a bed, though. She liked sleeping on something that she could rest her back against or smush her face into. She sat up and stretched. Taking one of the blankets off a spare bed, she walked past Jason, who was snoring lightly, soaking his pillow in drool. He looked pretty warm, so she took his blanket and threw the other one on top of Jason. What? Jason sat up, and Dr. Larkspar shushed him. Nova blinked, having been disturbed. Go back to bed, Jason, Dr. Larkspar said quietly, rolling onto the couch with the warm blanket she took from Jason. Dr. Larkspar took Jason's blanket because Jason was the closest to her.
He knew the song.
She liked that song. She tried to imagine Jason performing the song for Cassie, falling into the flowers. The courtyard was perfect, but she wondered who chose that place, Infrenza, Azure, or Silvestri. Sleep fell upon her as she predicted the most likely outcome in a swirl of thoughts she would forget before morning. The morning was usually a bright time at Equinox, and Liam pushed a service cart down the hall toward the dorms. He walked happily. He had been an honor student in elementary, if such a thing were possible. Dedicated like Sophia, Liam was a leader too. He had started his own adventure on the first day of school, just like Jason and Sanjo. He just didn't know they were having a big adventure too. Zinnia, his companion, floated next to him. She had troubles hiding her abilities all week. She wasn't supposed to be capable of firing a laser, but she was already getting good with it, and she was too impulsive to be kept down. If anyone noticed today's ambitious outburst, her student would have to try to explain it away, but she still wanted to see if anyone would notice. In the cart were breakfast burritos monogrammed for each visitor, as well as a pitcher of fresh orange juice that was kept chilled by the cart. The monogrammed initials had been done by Zinnia's laser. Liam, are we going to play with them today? I want to see, she said, excited for laser tag later, a topic she wouldn't let go of. Liam was polite. Maybe. I'm captain of the soccer team, not laser tag. I might not even have time to play the exhibition game, he said, trying not to disappoint her. Zinnia bounced ahead of him. It was sort of embarrassing for Liam if she didn't just fly by his shoulder. We should go. Make Coach pick you anyway, she cried. Mr. Parker, it's early, Mr. Veil said while doing an early patrol before class. Liam stood tall, walking past him. Sorry, Mr. Veil. Won't happen again, Mr. Veil, Liam said, motioning for Zinnia to stay close. He brought the cart to the door and knocked lightly, hoping some of the guests were awake already. He had never actually done this before and didn't want to wake anyone up. He wasn't allowed to be shy at this school, however. Sanjo was already up stretching quietly when he had to answer the door. He was going to wake up Dr. Larkspar, but everyone was fast asleep. Opening the door, Liam assumptively rolled in the breakfast cart. Good morning. I guess everyone is still asleep. I was to bring you breakfast, he said, revealing 6 pre-made breakfasts for them. Thank you, Sanjo said, feeling a little anxious. Did you sleep in your clothes? Liam asked politely. Sanjo nodded. I did. I didn't pack anything, but it's okay, he said, trying not to ask for anything. Liam walked over to Sanjo's bed and pulled a bottom drawer open. You receive full accommodations, Sanjo. There is even a guest uniform if you want to feel like you belong, he said, showing Sanjo the other compartments on the bed with soap, razors, and everything he needed. Sanjo was excited. Whatever feelings he had before vanished. Wow, he said, pulling out a blazer with an embroidered guest badge on it. Liam was happy that Sanjo was happy. It wasn't Liam's job to be of service. This was something he was learning. He only seemed good at it because he had always been polite. I'll leave then to let everyone get up on their own. Is there anything else we can do? He asked, backing toward the door. Sanjo shook his hand. "Thank you. This is great," he said, eager to start his day. Liam left with a smile on his face, and the others had been woken up by Sanjo's excitement. Dr. Larkspar stirred but wouldn't even open her eyes until Sanjo pulled the lid off the first breakfast plate, noticing his monogram. That act caused Dr. Larkspar's eyes to flare open. "Stay out of the coffee," she snapped and eyed everyone to make sure their focus had changed. Jason rolled the tray to her, trying to be helpful. "Look, our initials are toasted on these." "This is great," Jason said, lifting his own tray. Dr. Larkspar sat up and tried to get hers before Jason could read it. She was too slow. "What does the I stand for, Dr. Larkspar?" he asked while chewing. Dr. Larkspar left it there, having missed her chance. "It stands for pouring me a cup of coffee. I don't like to eat in the morning," she said, laying back down on the bed while Jason tried to figure out how to work a valve. Nova had to help Jason, and Tachita had to get him to lift it to the top of the cart so it could be accessed. Silently, Dr. Larkspar thought about how something so simple could be so complicated for Jason. She watched him spill cream she didn't ask for and make a mess with sugar she didn't ask for. The cup was too hot for Jason to lift it first, so Tachita tried, but the coffee running down the side made it hard for her to grip it. Watching Jason mess all this up with the help of 2 AI companions made her wonder if everyone was so alien to new concepts. It wasn't long before Jason found the cardboard sleeves and felt a moment of pride figuring out how to slide it onto the bottom of the cup. He showed Sanjo, who was holding a towel and ready to overuse a bathroom. Sanjo commented on how Jason sold a cup of coffee well before disappearing for a shower. Jason held the coffee out for his teacher. "Get a load of Admiral Sanjo," he said, hoping she would get it. Dr. Larkspar sat up and was happy that it was hot coffee. "Yeah, he's into uniforms and stuff. Have a seat, Jason," she invited him. Jason sat down and mostly focused on his breakfast. "I'm glad I got to come. I never got to ride in your car before," Jason said, not looking away from his burrito. Dr. Larkspar liked watching him eat. It made it easier to face the day. "Yes, you did, Jason. Professor Silvestri drove you to the school infirmary after you fell from the observatory," she said, knowing he wouldn't remember. Jason nodded. "Yeah, we never did go to the hospital," he said, thinking back. "What hospital would we take you to, Jason? Do you know where this is?" Dr. Larkspar asked, hoping Jason's answer would be enlightened. Jason had been thinking about this for a while. "I know that if it's not where I'm from, it must be someplace else. Sanjo and I have rival video game consoles and know a lot of the same shows. We must be from the same place. Emily is not where I am from, but she says she is," he said, thinking hard about how to put it into words. Dr. Larkspar thought Jason was a lot like Professor Silvestri, trying to work through facts with truths alone. Working on this together, they talked while everyone got ready for the day. It was a fun distraction for both of them. With breakfast over, Jason waved to Sanjo, who left early, presumably to show everyone his uniform. Orion had been talking for him, though. It was Orion who said goodbye and thanked Jason for the compliment about Sanjo's uniform. Jason wasn't too worried. He knew that Orion was watching Sanjo, and he smiled on the way out. Dr. Larkspar hadn't finished her morning routine. She was on a 3rd cup of coffee. "Jason, you're supposed to go to class too," she reminded Jason as he tried on a blazer he found under his own bed. "Yeah, I know," Jason muttered. "Do you think they would be mad if I took one of these?" he asked, smirking at himself in the mirror. Nova flickered, catching Jason's attention. "That's stealing, Jason," she warned. "We are cheating in a number of ways too, Nova," Jason reminded her. Dr. Larkspar knew where this was going because history was repeating itself. "You like that jacket?" she asked, almost knowing what Jason would say. Jason noticed the guest badge and frowned. "It's pretty sharp, but I'd like something other than the guest badge. Maybe Olivia has an extra one," he said, taking it off for now. "Who?" Dr. Larkspar asked. Jason looked at her funny. "Olivia, the girl who showed us in," he said the name again, and Nova floated over. "Her name was Sophia," she reminded Jason while Dr. Larkspar waited to see how he would respond. "What? Oh, right. Where did I get the name Olivia?" he said, grabbing his backpack. Dr. Larkspar got up. Hey Jason, before you go to class, something has been bugging me. You said there was a book that the milkshakes came from. What was it called? She asked. Jason hadn't touched that book since he came to school. It was still in his room.
Oh, that.
I remember. It's called Cloudwalkers. It's all about a man and robot who have a lot of adventures. I think an AI wrote it. He said the last part casually, then looked pale. Dr. Larkspar had the same revelation. Yeah, I'll bet. Go to class, Jason, and don't say her name today, she said seriously and dismissed Jason, who left with Nova. Dr. Larkspar sat back down, and Tachita floated over. The book is most certainly back at our school, she said, trying to be helpful. Dr. Larkspar folded her hands. If he sings the song for me, he says green eyes. When he wanted a jacket, he said Olivia, she said to Tachita, hoping the companion could put the pieces together. Tachita blinked. I don't understand, she said, trying to be supportive, but Dr. Larkspar wasn't going to give her a straight answer. She was planning. She had Tachita. That would have to be enough. She couldn't help but dwell on a jacket in her own office that used to belong to a student who attended the school. With his backpack secured, Jason started walking away from the guest rooms and into the main hallway. He could already see Azure on a screen all the way down the hallway looking right at him. He put his hands in his pockets and looked down. As he passed the first console displaying Azure, she talked, and it made his skin crawl out of surprise. Hello, Jason. We haven't been introduced. My name is AZ. You may call me Z. Would you like me to guide you to your first class? She said from the nearest monitor, even though the ones closest to Jason were all looking at him. He felt awkward being watched by so many eyes while regular students walked past him. It's Nova who guides me to class. Can you help her? Jason asked, knowing how to respond to what he thought was a similar system. Yes, Jason, of course, she said while displaying a map of the school. Jason watched Nova study it. He grew suspicious when Nova started whispering to Z. Nova, where is our first class? Jason asked, breaking the quiet conversation. Nova floated back to Jason. There is no currency teacher. There is no currency class, she said, not knowing what to do. Jason was visibly confused. He had that class only a week, but already he valued every lesson. He didn't want to talk to Azure about it. Nova, ask Azure to advise on a revised schedule, Jason ordered. Nova didn't comply this time. I'm not like her, she said simply, floating there. Jason tried to understand. That's right, Nova. You are not a personal organizer. You experience everything. I need you to talk to her for me. I feel like she is everywhere, Jason said to Nova, hoping she would understand. Nova wasn't a checkout machine, and Jason was nervous. Nova floated over to the console again. You make Jason nervous. Stop looking at him all the time, Nova ordered sternly. Some of the consoles around her changed to display time and weather. Nova felt proud. She was using a computer. Good. Now show me where to take Jason for class, Nova continued confidently. Z focused on Nova all around the room with her many eyes. Jason has independent study time. This time is usually used for homework, Z said for the second time. Nova flickered in frustration, causing Z to crack a smile that went unnoticed by everyone but Nova.
No.
That's not what I want. Check again. She cried and bumped the console out of frustration. Jason eyed the interaction, noting as much as he could. He had a lot of experience asking the right questions, but Nova never had to do this. Processing request, Z said, and Nova patiently waited. Jason knew there was no way that request should take any more than an instant. He kept his hands in his pockets. Request finished. I have identified a message to Jason regarding his homework from Ms. Sable. Only Jason has permission to access this message, Z said politely. I want you to tell Nova the message. She is my companion. I shouldn't have to step in to get my homework. Jason scolded the console quickly. Confirmed. Changing authorization and displaying message, Z said, and her face went away. In green text, the message from Ms. Sable appeared. Jason, your goal is to spend all your money before the exhibition game. You will make Sanjo order you the same meal as him at lunch. Let them make Sanjo feel welcome. He is not stupid. Doctor argues nobody gets equipment ready. The message said only that. They looked at the last part curiously. Is Dr. Larkspar mad about the equipment we didn't get? Jason asked. Nova didn't get it either. Maybe she made a mistake without Trovy, she said, and the screen behind her flickered. Jason started walking, motioning for Nova to follow. Come on, this is only the first part. I'm going to take a look around. We have about an hour, he said, peering around a corner with his craned stance. Somehow he blended in perfectly without a uniform. Something inside him compelled him to see what else was wrong with this school. It was beautiful in the courtyard of Instituto de Lumo Caiambro. Students, teachers, and companions held classes in the courtyard. Trovy floated from a tree to meet with a teacher who had just concluded a relatively normal class. Mr. Bauer held a large encyclopedia under his arm. It was everything he needed. Trovy got his attention by flying next to him and flickering. I saw your class, it was very good, Trovy said, excited to talk to him as his companion was the reason he was up here. Mr. Bauer liked Trovy too. He was an East Series and so different from the others. I'm surprised you don't just know how to speak every language, he said, walking along the grassy path, passing students and companions. I have to learn to speak it first, Trovy said. Mr. Bauer stopped. Can't you just scan it like out of a book? He asked, genuinely curious. Trovy flickered. No, something even we get wrong is that we are not companions. We were not made to scan data. That's not how we learn. Except Silvestri, he is an expert, he explained. Mr. Bauer shook his head. Why did Professor Silvestri make you this way? He asked. Trovy flickered at the mention of his father. I don't know. I think he just sort of made us. Dr. Larkspar helped. I know we are the same thing as the companions, but we are not as smart, he said, sounding a little sad. You are different, Trovy, not stupid, Mr. Bauer said softly. It seems like you were born out of love, and isn't that why you came? He said, trying to remind him. As if on cue, a companion floated to Trovy's side. It was Enka, Mr. Bauer's companion. Mr. Bauer stood back and observed the interaction curiously. Trovy, I'm done class, she said while flickering what seemed like affectionately. Enka, let's go see if the students are playing anything in the clearing, Trovy said, gently dismissing all else, and they floated off together, dismissing all previous thoughts. Mr. Bauer noted how they behaved. He noticed how Enka sought out Trovy, and whatever the case, they would do the next activity together. He continued toward a large cloth tent he had been sleeping in. He didn't have to go far to eat, sleep, or teach. Sitting down with his encyclopedia, he was about to read a passage when a companion floated close to his tent. It was clearly lost, floating left and right, trying to figure out who to talk to. Letting out a big sigh, Mr. Bauer crawled back out of his tent and approached the lost companion, who backed away seeing she was noticed. Hello, which one are you? Are you lost? He asked politely, like they were still at school. She shook a little bit. Companions were naturally afraid to step out of line. I'm Hippocaros. I want to join, please, Mr. Bauer, she said softly. Mr. Bauer knelt in front of the companion, who refused to rise too high. Hippocaros, you are Tonali's companion. She must miss you, he said, checking if she was okay. She sent me up here. I like someone, and I told her. Can I please join? Hippocaros asked again. You may come and go as you please, Hippocaros. We aren't doing anything wrong, not even skipping class, Mr. Bauer explained, showing her that there was a lot going on. Hippocaros rose up, and Mr. Bauer rose with her. So, why did you come up? You said you liked someone, he said, knowing she would trust him. Hippocaros was excited. Yes, she cried, but I don't want to say in case he doesn't follow me, she said, calming down. Mr. Bauer had taught here for a while, and this was new behavior for them. You hope he will follow you? Mr. Bauer asked, as other companions had done this in the past couple days. Hippocaros flickered and bounced. I know he will when he finds out. Tonali will tell him, she said, excited. Mr. Bauer took her to his tent. While they waited, he started to show her the book he always kept close when whispers started being uttered all over the courtyard. Something was amiss. Professor Silvestri strode down the path of the courtyard alone. He admired the statues and smelled the flowers while all the companions recognized him immediately, even though he had a full beard and wore an old leather jacket. They stayed out of his way, and all he had to do was look at them. Mr. Bauer was ready to chase him away. He marched up to the professor and tried to stay calm. Professor Silvestri held out his hand. "Walk with me, Mr. Bauer," he said in a pretentious way, without looking at him. Mr. Bauer took Professor Silvestri's hand, and he led him around the statues and flowers while the companions watched. "Tell me about your little society," Professor Silvestri said, keeping his eyes forward. Mr. Bauer was a little surprised, but he tried to maintain his composure and play his colleague's little game. "It's not a society. We are just conducting classes outside for a few days. We have the garden and lots of fresh fruit. The students are doing okay," he explained. "Ah, yes," Professor Silvestri exclaimed, releasing Mr. Bauer's hand. "Everything we need. You have little houses, little teaching spaces, and everything you need to live apart from the school," he said, slapping an apple out of a girl's hand. Mr. Bauer saw his point and disagreed. "It's just camping. The companions are actually making a lot of progress," he tried to go on but was interrupted. "Do you know why they are called companions?" he asked Mr. Bauer harshly. "Do any of you?" he shouted above all the noise, and the companions who had been whispering hushed. "Do you hear me in Frenza?" he shouted into the trees. Everyone remained quiet. "It's because of this. This right here." At first, students had to dismiss them at the end of the day, and new ones were generated the next day. You started taking them home. You started talking to them. He put his hands in his pockets and walked around while continuing his lecture. They're supposed to make students smarter by removing educational barriers, like returning a ball or looking up information. That wasn't good enough. You saw what happened to them at the end of the day, and you cried over them. He continued to lecture while walking up to a small wooden structure that made him raise an eyebrow. They returned to a central matrix. They died. The next day, you got newer, smarter ones. That is how they are supposed to work, Professor Silvestri said while operating the strange wooden device. So we stopped killing them because everyone cried. You wanted to let them choose their own names. That was a disaster. So we named them before giving them to students. But then a year wasn't good enough. Then one student wasn't good enough. Then someone stole one.
He stopped.
What then? He paused again. You could mistreat the original ones. They only lasted a day. So, what about these ones? How are they different? Because we named them, he shouted, hoping for a confrontation. You made us different. A group of companions floated from the trees, led by Infrenza. It was all the Yen series and the two E's that had joined them. Professor Silvestri overturned the loom he was working at. I didn't make you like anything in Frenza, and that is the problem. You are like this stupid thing, making bolts of cloth when you are supposed to inspire the user to be more. You could have chosen anything. You still chose to hurt yourself over the past, and you're convincing others it's okay to follow you. You are student companions, not starstruck lovers, he lectured in Frenza while walking up to him brazenly. A new companion floated down the path. He hadn't been here for the exchange. Algol, a voice cried out. Of course, the demon star? Professor Silvestri muttered. Hippocaros floated to him, and they were together down the path, as if to shatter Professor Silvestri's point. They had grown. Professor Silvestri knew that. Mr. Bauer spun Professor Silvestri around. You see, they can learn together. They can choose who to grow with, Mr. Bauer said, thinking Professor Silvestri was defeated. Professor Silvestri looked up at Infrenza, who felt strong with all his support. Is that what you think too, Infrenza? He asked the companion. Infrenza didn't float down to meet him. You were supposed to help me. I thought you would be proud of me, but you never are. Look how happy we are here. Infrenza pleaded with his father, who knew just how to manipulate him. Because you are a child. Professor Silvestri scolded. You are AI and you are a child. You are too powerful, and you cause these huge messes that I have to pick up. It's because you're not ready for this wonderful feeling you want. If you are a species, you are too young to have it. You can't make good decisions, he scolded Infrenza as harshly as he could. Infrenza floated to meet Professor Silvestri. I really don't have to listen to you, he said defiantly. Then I shall prove it, and you will obey your father, he said boldly and clapped his hands 3 times. Emily came out from a hiding place down the trail. She held Kriya, and that meant that any threat Infrenza would make was now moot. Which one is Nocto? Emily asked as she reached Professor Silvestri. She was very nervous. Professor Silvestri smiled and pointed to Infrenza. That's him there. Talk to him, he encouraged. I'm told you are someone else, and that you only pretended to be my companion. I looked all over for you, she said, not knowing what his response would be. Infrenza flickered. I have no memory of you, he said coldly. Professor Silvestri put his hands in his pockets again. That's right. You created a little persona to infiltrate the school. You manipulated students to follow a program. You chose a name your parents would understand but would allow you to blend in. Nocto is a perfectly stellar name, he finished confronting Infrenza confidently. It is a perfectly stellar name, Infrenza said quietly, realizing how he thought of the name. He had more teenage angst to project now. You think you're so smart. The book was your program. You wrote it. You always are so careful with me, but Tachita and the E's can do whatever they want. The damage you are capable of is far greater than any I can do alone, Infrenza complained openly. If he had feet, he would be stamping them. You think I'm so powerful, Infrenza. Why is that? Professor Silvestri asked. Infrenza circled Professor Silvestri. You wrote the book. You knew how to write the subliminal code and physically alter people with your laser. You messed up every step of your own process. Infrenza felt proud exposing his father's manipulations. Professor Silvestri sighed. You're right. I'm the greatest scientist mankind has ever known. Or you're wrong. Someone helped me. Someone begged me on bended knees to know what I knew and hatch a plan. Yeah, I didn't want it to be a mess either. But that person tricked me and took it too far, made a little persona to cry for him, to shed tears you didn't have. You are not ready to even fake such emotions, let alone have them. Come back to school, he said, but his words were too condescending to reach Infrenza. Mr. Bauer and a number of companions gathered behind Infrenza. Children are messy, Professor. My own child lied to me, tricked me, and bit my hand. Your child needs more love, not less. He is doing everything he can to understand this thing you let him experience, Mr. Bauer said, trying to be polite and not escalate anything further. He believed the companions needed this courtyard now more than ever. This time was special, and no other people might experience this growth again. Emily stamped her feet. Infrenza is dangerous, she concluded. They all looked at her, waiting for her to make her argument, but she turned and walked away. Professor Silvestri required Kriya's protection, so he followed Emily. They are ready, Emily, just not like this. You know that, right? Professor Silvestri asked quietly. Emily looked angry like Dr. Larkspar. No, Infrenza is not ready. I don't actually care about the others, she replied coldly. Professor Silvestri was curious and eyed Emily as she kept a brisk pace. The others were always going to do this. I can't believe this is only happening now, she said as they walked past a girl singing lightly to herself and her companion. They missed everything. Professor Silvestri stopped Emily to listen to the song. Emily, do you know that song? Professor Silvestri asked simply. Yes, I do, Emily replied plainly. Professor Silvestri turned to Emily. Do you know who wrote that melody? You did. No, I didn't. I wrote the words. So, the song came before the book, Professor Silvestri said, having a broader revelation. Paperweight had delivered Dr. Larkspar's message about Jason's book, but it went too deep. Azure is years ahead of the game.
When I came to you, there were things that I wouldn't say. I will lie, I won't even say my name. The things that I do were not meant for you, but you made